Live now. You can start.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. I'm Kyle Acott. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. We are excited to have you. Yesterday, we talked a lot, or this week, we've actually talked about a lot already. We talked about what's happening in entertainment, what's happening in esports, what's happening in AR, VR. Yesterday, we were talking about the Internet of Things, edge computing, and where the investments are, where are the opportunities. Today, we're coming back right in the middle of those two topics. We're going to be talking today about what's happening in robotics, manufacturing, and to sum it all up, Industrial 4.0, something that leans very heavily on edge and the Internet of Things and the future of connectivity. That also has a little bit of role when it comes to AR and VR, augmented and virtual reality as well. So a lot to unpack from earlier this week and a lot more to talk about of where the opportunities are and also what's happening from an investor's perspective in these industries. So you as investors can know the latest, make the best decisions. You as entrepreneurs can get into our heads as investors, know how we think, know how we're looking at things. So when you come to talk to us, you know everything you need to know, or you can look at your business and how you may want to position slightly differently or offer new products and services into some of these rising and emerging areas. Now, before we get started, like we do here on every episode, a big thank you to you, our audience. We appreciate you tuning in and joining us every day here on the show. If you like what you hear, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Feel free to reach out to myself, to Elena, to Maria, to the entire LA Token team. We'd love to hear from you, hear what else we could add, what else we could do. If you'd love to be on the show as an entrepreneur, we host Startup Leaders Club multiple times a week. We'd love for you to unpack what you've learned in your startup and what you've learned during your business or things you'd like to share that others should know. As investors, you'd like to be on a show like we're going to have today, share your insights, share your knowledge, meet some great startups, meet some potential investments, reach out to us. We'd love to have you and love to host you on each and every one of our shows as we talk about the latest technologies and industries where the trends, the opportunities, the investments, everything in between are. Now, before we get started and welcome our guests, also a big shout out to Elena, to Maria, and to the entire LA Token team for making VCTV possible every day and helping it be brought to your screen wherever you may be, whatever device you may be watching on, anywhere in the world. And with that being said, gentlemen, welcome to the show. We're super excited to have you. Today's episode, as I said, we're going to be diving deep into robotics, manufacturing, and really the Industrial 4.0 or Industry 4.0. A lot has been happening in this space, really, for the past 100+ years, one would argue, and we're on that next wave and probably already towards the wave after this. And really what's happening here in Industrial 4.0 is all of these technologies we've been looking at, everything we've been talking about on VCTV, whether it's from artificial intelligence to data to technologies like blockchain to AR, VR, all of these are starting to converge at a level in the enterprise, which once was boring and slow for most, today is actually a very exciting and thriving area as we look at how infrastructure is being redesigned and really reimagined for us on a global scale. And so that being said, Gary, my man, the AI, the brain, welcome back to the show. A little intro, little background. I also know you have a few articles that are related to this topic. I will make sure to share those with the audience afterwards, but to you, my friend, feel free to share your intro and a little background.
Yeah, sure. My name's Gary Fowler, and I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. And so I've done 15 companies. My latest company, actually, Vadim would probably know. David Yang is my partner from Russia. He is, the company's called EVA. It's one of the top 10 AI HR tech companies that I started 4 years ago. I've been involved. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold for $1.35 billion in August. So a lot of experience. I love AI. I just, I love to see the digital transformation and how it's going to make our life better. And especially in areas like robotics, where we can actually have vast improvements and dramatically increase the efficiency and effectiveness of our lives and our manufacturing processes. So with that, I just love this stuff. So bring it up.
And we love you. And this is a perfect topic for you. I mean, AI plays such an important role as again, as I mentioned, in industry 4.0, industrial 4.0. This is really the digitization of industry. And that's a lot to unpack, and we will get there, but just keep that in mind. AI is going to play an enormous role in this, along with data. And with that, I want to welcome Vadim. Welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you. First time guest on my show here today. If you can unmute yourself, a little intro and background on you as well.
Sure, thanks for having me here. And basically, I've been investing for the past maybe 12 years in companies in Europe, US, Russia, and recently Asia as well. For the past maybe 5 years, I've been involved in deep tech investment, focusing mostly on technologies in robotics, AI as well, new materials and things like this. But basically, about the time the COVID has started, I've developed a newer model of investing. I'm now investing in companies which together form an ecosystem, a connected ecosystem in robotics. So basically, not just investing in a company doing something like drones, but in drones, wireless charging, specific types of engines, AI solutions for autonomous navigation, and things like this that form an entire connected ecosystem. So that's what I've been doing for the past, this I've been doing unconsciously or without a clear thesis for the past maybe 2 years, but now it has solidified.
Oh, that's really exciting. So let's put a pin in that. I want to come back to you. You're going to be the first question I come to because there's a lot happening in that space right now, and all of that being connected is very exciting in these areas. So with that is actually a great lead up to introduce our last guest here, Keith. Keith, welcome back to the show. I know you're in Singapore and it's late, but stick with us for 60 minutes. I promise it'll be worth it. Welcome back to the show. A little intro and a background on yourself as well.
Yes, my name is Keith. I've been involved in the so-called heavy industry, oil and gas, everything. And I was just having a chat with Kyle. And instead of investing, the Singapore government is extremely generous during this period. They are giving money to develop AI, automation, data analytics, 4.0. It's strange, you know, because the companies, when they go into automation, they need to spend on getting the robots, putting in new infrastructure. But in Singapore, they are literally funding up to 80% of the new infrastructure costs. So just need to pay 20%. It removes the barrier of companies, manufacturers in investing in infrastructure and new machinery to move to this new technology. So it's pretty exciting here, and we are kept quite busy.
Which is exciting. There's a lot happening. Thank you, Keith, and welcome to the show. There's a lot happening in Southeast Asia and Singapore, along with many of the other countries, or Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, as we were talking about, Thailand, China, of course. A lot of these countries have put a lot of effort into focusing on the future of industry, the future of Industrial 4.0. I know China, part of their 13th five-year plan, a plan they put out every 5 years. The Industry 4.0 was a huge focus of this. The Greater Bay Area, there are 11 cities and regions they put together. This is the #1 priority, making sure that this all is connected and working in seamlessly together. And that leads me to Vadim. I want to talk a little bit more about this thesis that you unconsciously but very consciously have started to put together. Why start with robotics, and then why build that ecosystem all around it? What are you seeing that's so important around robotics right now and that others may not be as an investor?
It's not even precisely robotics, but it started actually with the first sort of major investment I did. It was a company in unmanned aircraft called UAVOS. which basically develops not your small drones, but rather converts airplanes into UAVs, helicopters, does all sorts of large-scale unmanned aircraft for all types and purposes. However, initially, let's say with this type of aircraft, you come to DHL or whoever else, to any postal service, and says, you know what, I have a really cool drone for you. It can do whatever, it's perfect. And they may like it, but for them, it's still more of an inconvenience. It's a change of processes. Only the flight is fully autonomous, but then recharging it, making sure the delivery and pickup of the payload is autonomous, all of these things are a major hassle for them. So they need to either start to invest in logistics centers and things like this. So to understand and solve what needs to be done for this thing to become a real industrial live use case and not just, a showcase or a test case for good press, I started looking at things which are missing within this ecosystem. And it turns out there are not a lot, but there are some, maybe even many small but vital things which basically stop otherwise a fully autonomous process. So I started basically investing little by little in things which currently hold up the full automation. And with this, you can disrupt any number of industries: logistics, inspections, you name it, pretty much anything you want. So that's how it happened.
Interesting. Very interesting. So you're seeing a lot happening in the area of robotics right now.
Right now, basically exponentially growing.
Yeah. And is that, do you think, sorry to push you here on this, it's just there's a lot, most people don't want to talk about robotics. They find it, again, a very kind of unexciting topic to talk about when it's very exciting. So are you seeing that happen because of the past 6 months and what has changed in the world? Are you seeing that because digitization has really started to accelerate as we go into 2020? Or is it just finally time as well?
It's actually both. So basically, first, a few years ago, we've seen all sorts of robots and drones being introduced as, showcases, etc. And people tried, and there was like a lot of amazing videos, but then you see all of these startups which were part of this going under, going bankrupt. And the next iteration, sort of the next wave of technological companies, already far more rational, have appeared, which said, okay, we're here not to do a good show, we're here to do a task.
Right.
So this has started happening, and the industry reluctantly, but started to let them in. And with the coronavirus, again, it's bad to say this, but it was like for the robotics industry, it was a huge boost. Basically, people said, you know what? If there is something we can do without involving people who can transmit this, or who can meet between themselves and start transmitting it between each other, let's do this. So,
yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think that kind of echoes what we've heard on around previous or other technologies on previous shows as well. And Gary, I want to come to you. I mean, what else are you seeing as advancements or really, growth areas in these three topics that we're talking about? And let's just focus on Industrial 4.0 as a whole to not get too mudded.
Look at robotics right today. So where we are with robotics, we're talking about, coexistent and sequential. So, but the key is really, how do we make those systems really react in a responsive way and a cooperative way in the same workspace? How do we make them intelligent? How do we make them so they can make decisions and on their own, the right kind of decisions? And we're not there yet today, but guess what? As Vadim had said, it's coming. And it's coming very, very quickly because the technology's evolving dramatically. So GPT-3 and some of the implications that has, by the way, I forward you an article, Kyle.
I was just about to ask you to break it down. So, but go ahead, finish your thought. I'll ask you about it.
I think that, what we have is, the robots need to get smarter, and they got to make decisions. The robotics need to make decisions on their own. And the decisions need to be, as we've talked about before, there's got to be some morality. There's got to be some compassion. There's got to be some of those beliefs wedded into the system, whether it's a chip or the training sets that we use. And that's going to be critically important. Maybe not to robotics 2.0, which is where we're going to, but at 3.0, it's going to be something that we need to think about, because we need to have machines that, that have compassion, right? And so if we're in a manufacturing process and a machine's making a decision, we want to make sure that it's doing the right kind of thing.
Well, and not just that compassion, but as you've talked about as well around AI, is that emotional intelligence, right? It's the data is there, hopefully, right? We have enough data to make the right decision, but there needs to be that emotional element that's captured. And how is the decision made, right? Right versus wrong, and there's a lot that has to go in there. So GTP3, give me a little bit more on that, or give the audience.
Well, I mean, this is like. In fact,
how does that play into the industry?
I mean, we look at it today. And so being able to, for instance, this incredible, the impact that it's going to have in terms of being able to recreate things about sets that are already knows that are creatively different than what had been done before. I mean, it's just, it's going to look at novel approaches. So taking existing knowledge and then create a novel way of being able to solve a problem. I mean, that's basically what it does. So what does that mean? If I'm writing an article in a book, it can complete the book, right? If I'm doing a task, it writes its own rules. You know what I mean? It's like it creates the future. And so it learns about you, it learns about what it's doing, and then it actually creates the future. And I think that's really, an interesting part of where we're going. And to your point, Kyle, having that kind of emotional intelligence about it, so it makes the right kind of decisions, is critically important. Because if that robot is moved in a certain direction, it doesn't make the right choices. We want to make sure that it's because it's doing it because it's thinking about who we are and not just about being efficient, because that'll be not a good thing.
Yeah, and on the book example, I think yesterday there was an article from Cointelegraph capturing how a reporter had kind of faked out their audience as the audience thought they had written an article. It turned out that GPT-3 actually wrote this article, and it was a huge. I think I'll fact check it for everyone and put it in the links after the show. But it was a huge article that was super in depth, very informative. Looked like a piece of research that this person would have done, and it said just a few inputs and boom, it kicked out.
Exactly. And I mean, think about it, all the things that come around, where that's going to affect all this manufacturing process and robotics and report writing, music, right? It starts to create music on its own in the style of Beethoven. Who gets the credit? It's, we're in this a fascinating area, and we start to apply it. Imagine novel ways of doing manufacturing that the system comes up on its own, based on the style that it's learned before, but it changes things, tweaks them, make them more efficient and effective. I just love it.
Absolutely. Well, and it kind of goes into Vadim's, point of his thesis around investing in new materials, or either currently or previously, but new materials. There could be new materials that actually come out of this and find more efficient and effective ways to produce products as well as manufacture them. And that's, I think, another thing we forget. And, we talk about manufacturing in just, again, industrial 4.0, there's biomedical or biotech is also a part of that manufacturing process. Robotics play a very big role in the future of medicine and biology. And we talked about in previous episodes around genetics and genomics and the idea of therapeutics and how we're going to we'll look at the future of our foods and future of ourselves. I mean, robots play a huge role in that. We're just talking about manufacturing. We're not even talking about nanobots that actually will help heal us. That is things that are being worked on as well. But Keith, I want to come to you. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Gary.
No, what I'm saying is, I mean, you're right on point. So think about it. When we have those nanobots inside our body, they're continuing cleaning us and actually don't need to have guidance or making repairs. So, I got a little bit too much cholesterol. Here's a little problem, drug delivery. Think about it. It's incredible. And these
It
are the
is.
kind of things that are happening now. You know, the foundation's being laid for that.
Look at Vadim shaking his head. He's like, yes, I know. I may or may not have made an investment in this space, but my thesis is different. I tease, but no, I agree. And Vadim, I want to come back to your thoughts on that as well in a minute. But Keith, I want to come to you. I mean, you're focused, you know, not just with the Singaporean government, but I know you have a background in traditional industry. And what I mean by that is around oil and gas, these very traditional businesses. How are you seeing things advance or really come to digitized this future we're starting to live in those areas? I know drones have played a traditional role for the past 5-7 years. AI has started, data has played a role, but what are you seeing from your perspective in those areas that is starting to advance as an investor?
Well, what I'll see in terms of the users is the 1/3, 2/3 rule. 1/3 will eagerly adopt new technology, will try it out because they know they'll be left out, they don't. And it's as simple as that. Even the simple industry of tank storage, they're adopting things like IoT, drone inspection. The other 1/3 is always waiting. And the other 1/3 will never change until the maintenance manager retires. So the formula is still there. What you're seeing now is the middle 1/3 is moving. So more and more companies are willing to try out small scales, no risk, whereas the first 1/3 is always wants to escalate and wants to change the industry. What doesn't change is the last 1/3, because it's a simple sentence. Unless the maintenance manager retires and someone takes over, nobody's going to change. So in the terms of how it works in Singapore, is that the funding of new equipment, funding of new technology is pretty unbelievable. They could fund up to 70, 80% of the cost. So for the middle 1/3, it's become a no-brainer because they don't need to spend the money. They don't need to spend much money. Previously, it was always the barrier of, look, the industry like shipping is challenging. The industry like oil and gas is challenging. Where are you going to find the money? So now that previous barrier has been removed because a lot of it is subsidized. So I think they're spending millions and billions of dollars, and other countries are doing that. Like what Kyle says, in Asia, in China, this is why it's motivating the change.
And do you see the government continuing to play a pretty substantial role in these advancements, whether that be in Singapore or just Asia as a whole? I know that the government has a hand in a lot of this, providing those subsidies, providing investments, you know, offering, you know, the integration of new technologies, et cetera. Do you see that continuing or really even just thriving further than what it already has?
I think it depends on which country. In Singapore, they'll continue to do that. Maybe they'll scale down a little bit and invest in newer areas, newer developments as it proceeds. Just like China, they were seeding heavily the solar panel. Then when they stop funding the projects, then you have a slowdown a bit, but it picked up again. So yes, I think they continue to do in the initial stage. But other countries, maybe like Indonesia or Malaysia, they don't really have a foresight, a long-term plan. So it'll be more like ad hoc. You know, when it starts, then they find out they're running out of money, they'll stop a while. So it's a mixture of very long-term foresight and what is the flavor of the day. But to answer your question, yes, it's still going to continue.
Yeah, and I had the chance to break down the plan that was recently released by Beijing, the 145-page blueprint of what China would be rolling out over the next 2 years around integrating blockchain and artificial intelligence technologies into their industries. And Industrial 4.0 many of those industries were heavily a part of that plan, and some of these tests have already been implemented. So I fully agree. In the Greater Bay Area, that whole area of southern China, Macau and Hong Kong is definitely seeing a lot of this as well. Excited to see where Vietnam and even South Korea and Japan play a role in this. Again, just talking about Asia as a whole, but a lot is happening. We also talked a lot was happening in India with a lot of recent investments that have been made there as well. So a lot is happening in this space, to Keith's point, on a global scale with government. So if you're building in this, take a look at how the governments may be able to work with you, what kind of tax breaks, what kind of investments, what kind of et cetera they can help provide, because it's a great resource in those emerging markets to have on your side. And that being said, Vadim, I want to come to you. I teased a little bit about your thesis, but I really am intrigued by that recent development around the ecosystem of the robotics area, but wanted to talk a little bit more about what opportunities are you seeing, not just in robotics, but in Industrial 4.0 as a whole for yourself as an investor, but also areas that maybe entrepreneurs should be paying attention to start building in as well.
Well, basically, again, I'll give you my view on this, which is a bit skewed by the type of investments I'm doing these days. But I see that disruption of the traditional industries by full automation, which comes through basically an amalgamation of all the technologies. You see robotics there, you see sensors, which is your IoT, you see artificial intelligence, which ties the first to the second, so which combines and agglutinates all of this in sort of a solid offer. And you can attack pretty much any industry out there. I mean, as Keith has mentioned already, inspection of oil pipelines. Can it be done fully autonomously? Today, to a degree, yes. It still requires some human post-processing and whatnot, but the more things evolve, the better sort of, the more autonomous things become. So from inspections to logistics to manufacturing, and when I say logistics, I'm not only talking about, the autonomous trucks which are driving between the two cities, but I'm actually talking about your pizza being delivered to you on your balcony by a drone, right? So today it's a little bit far away, but technically speaking, it's already possible. It's a matter of regulations, it's a matter of safety, right? And so as of today, literally you just need to pick an industry to disrupt, look at what are the missing pieces and create one of these. I'm pretty sure you'll find a decent investor in if your company has a reasonably working solution. And as of today, I think pretty much everything is open. Plus, the most important part is think collaborations. Don't try to do like everything yourself. We're developing this one mega cool thing which will do everything. The chances are it will not do anything correctly on its own, like to the required degree. Partner with people, partner with AI partners, partner with robotics people, partner with sensors guys. I think now it's all about choosing the industry, choosing the right partnerships, and having a decent solution of your own.
Absolutely. Gary, same question to you. I mean, what are you seeing as areas of opportunities as an investor in these spaces, or that, again, founders should be looking at to really start building in?
Yeah, so, what Vadim said is right on target. So I actually have a aging in place company. And one of the things that, you want to do is you need to have solutions, right? And so the companies that are out there, they make a big mistake a lot of times where they try to build it all and they waste a whole lot of money. Use what's out there. Look for some things that are commercially available. For instance, the sensors that Vadim talked about, and artificial intelligence that could be integrated as part of the solution. So I think in terms of, what I like what you said, Kyle, in terms of the entire medical environment, because we want to live longer. I had my MBA students a few years ago do a project with Stanford called Living to 120. So, and it was interesting because nanorobots and technologies and robotics for surgery, where they're actually part of the process in tandem with a doctor, not guided, but in tandem, this is where it's going to be. And let me tell you, if you want to make some investments in technology, those are the kind of places, because I think anybody that's on this webinar right now would agree that if they had to spend some money and they could have something in their body, could have them live 20 years longer, they would do it, right? And the quality of life goes up. So I think that's really, really interesting. And from my standpoint, in terms of investment, I love that area. And I don't think we've spent enough time just in general, just to explore it. The other thing that is critically important is those AI technologies that we use for other environments can be deployed in manufacturing, can be deployed in robotics today. Think differently. Don't reinvent the wheel. Use what you have, enhance it, but use what's out there today. Make it a lot easier, because getting time to market, speed to market is critically important today. Solve a problem that's going to have a big dent in the universe.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And it's funny because I actually just got a notification from Forbes or Fortune, pardon me, of a stealth robotics company that just came out publicly, and they are focused on robots and artificial intelligence in the food industry, and how they can optimize bakeries to get certain goods delivered during the pandemic in various cities around, and using all AI software. So based on what people are seeing, what people are wanting, optimizing it and making sure it gets to where it goes. And I was walking a few days ago and saw a robot delivering food. So to your point, I mean, there's opportunities aplenty. It's just getting out there and getting it done. You know, as you say, GSD, get shit done. I mean, get out there, get working. Plenty of opportunities in the space to both of your points. And
I mean, I was at Walmart the other day, and I actually, the first time ever, had seen a robot in Walmart actually going down and cleaning the store ever. I've never seen it before. And It was incredible. I walked by it, it stopped, wait till you got by, and it would go out and, you know, cleaned it. It was amazing, actually. But these are the kind of things, these robotic processes are going to dramatically shift the quality of our life and make our whole life a lot easier, so we can focus on some of the more important things.
And open up new economies. That's one thing I think people kind of forget again is, you know, we talk about all this automation, which is what it all sums up to be, and how that displaces certain things in our life, including our jobs and otherwise securities. And realistically, it opens up new economies, and there's a lot to be had. I mean, we've talked about this, Gary, on previous episodes, along with Keith, and then Vadim. I mean, you're talking about it with your deep tech investing experience. Newer and newer economies will open up, offering new data sets, offering new products and services, and new jobs as well. So that's something to look forward to when you are building these products, or when you are investing, is what else can be opened up by these companies and services. Keith, to you, what are you seeing as areas of opportunity in the areas of really industrial 4.0 for investors and for entrepreneurs, whether that be Singapore, Asia, or just greater scale? I mean, what should people be looking at right now?
I think what Gary says, right? You know, the auto cleaning machine is not because they want to automate it. It's because the risk of human beings doing this job. So, well, they actually change, not because of logical reason, but because of false circumstances. It's the same for the production, and people need to work from home. So now you have no choice but to automate a lot of things. So this is what is actually changing, not because it's more efficient to make it through automation. It's because they can't go to work. So once you understand the process, then whatever technology you have, you're not pitching it as something, you make it more efficient, but in a different environment, and this is the way to move forward. So things, customers actually will have a change in the thinking. For example, you get crew on board vessels who are trapped for 6 months. I even heard 9 months, because they couldn't have any crew change because of coronavirus. No port will take them in. So if you have a solution for that, then people will want it immediately, because they need to get a crew off the vessels. So it becomes something like, because of the pandemic, is critical. Last time it's okay, you know, it's a better way of getting a crew, but they still get off the vessels, but now they can't. So what can we do in automation or 4.0 or AI to enable these crew changes?
Yeah,
So-
I mean, you know, what I was going to say, Kyle, that's right on target. I mean, Keith is right on. I think that this pandemic has really brought some things out because now we're kind of forced, these robotics companies have now an opportunity of a lifetime because of the whole social distancing issues, et cetera, to be able to automate it so there aren't those challenges to the person. And I think that is really, really interesting. So Keith is right on target with that.
Absolutely. And it goes to Vadim's point of like, I think why he's changed this thesis and really focused on the area of robotics is now is the time. It's exponential. I mean, the growth is there. And, you know, Vadim, I don't want to speak for you, so I apologize if that's not the case, but I think everyone here is very spot on. This is 5 years ago, this was not necessarily the time. You know, things were still early in development. There were still trials and errors, but it was a good time to start, learn, understand, make adjustments. Now, fast forward, game on. Vadim, I see you unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to add this is what's important. Instead of developing, don't make it complicated. Something can implement today, you implement today, don't do research and implement 1 month later because people are not going to wait. So you implement it and it can be approved, that's fine, but implement it today, implement it immediate, whatever technology you have. Don't wait.
Well, one sort of comment on my end when it comes to implementation, especially in robotics. And here, in most of the cases, not only do you need to implement things, but ensure the highest degree of quality. I mean, let's take an example. What happens if your cell phone basically hangs and something goes wrong in the operating system? Well, not much. I mean, you'll be a little bit upset, you'll reboot it, and things go on as they were. However, what happens if a mechanical arm, which is assembling a machine, malfunctions? Well, you have yourself a cost. Hopefully, it will damage only one machine, and sort of, okay, it's a cost, it's a stop in the manufacturing process. What happens if a drone, which is carrying, I don't know, 5 kilogram payload, malfunctions in the air, and it falls on, I don't know, on a child who is walking behind it, and basically it results in accidental death, right? So that's probably going to be, well, maybe not the end of the company, because we've seen Teslas burn people and, you know, all sorts of things, right? Companies do survive these things, but those are huge setbacks, and those will delay any sort of meaningful implementation of these solutions for a really long time. So basically now it's all especially for robotics and for industry 4.0. Yes, simple, but make it as reliable as it can get. Because if you don't, you'll stay on the demo page.
the basic template that all startups begin with. And I think you're absolutely agree. And I'd like to, actually, before I ask, Gary, do you have a point to add to that? I saw you unmuted.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you know, that's exactly right. I mean, you got to make sure that these systems are very reliable, because the last thing you want if you're doing a heart surgery is to have one that's a little buggy. You know what I mean? There's liability issues associated with it. So, but at the same time, you know, surgeons make mistakes too. And I want to make sure that, you know, if I'm know that this robot is going to do a much better job in general on this surgery, I'm more likely to go with the robot, right? With some oversight by a doctor, at least to be there to watch.
Do you think that'll become a choice? Do you think that'll actually become a choice in our time here? Is that, you know, we'll have the chance to say, do you want a human to operate, or do you want a robot? Because I think from manufacturing, that's not a choice. It's about optimization, efficiency.
Kyle, it's a very simple deal. What will the insurance pay for?
There you go.
Someone's
paying for it. Right? Someone's paying for it somewhere. Right. But Vadim, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, actually, this is a really good point that Gary has touched upon. So the insurance actually is starting to pay for robotic errors. So We see the insurance actually starting to insure some of the drone operations. So all of these things, insuring the payload, insuring the drone itself, etc. It may not be optimal. There may be very few players, etc., etc. So basically, but it's getting there. So I would definitely say that within the next few years, I'm not even saying a lot, but we'll have a lot of choices on the plate when it comes to choosing between human and inhuman.
I like it. So Vadim, I want to come back on that.
Hey, Vadim, I'm not sure if I like the inhuman thing. That sounds a little strange, you know what I mean?
Very, very specifically and on purpose.
Yeah. So that being said, let's talk about it as investors now. I mean, we've talked and unpacked what's happening and where we see opportunities. Let's look under the hood. Let's go into the diligence. When looking at these types of companies, they are not everyday normal companies. They have aspects of those, but they have some very specific things we need to look at as investors when we're doing our diligence, and founders need to be ready for. So Vadim, you're looking at deep tech, and specifically in robotics. What has changed in your investment process, or what do you look at from when you do diligence on these types of companies that you may not on a traditional, and forgive me, but an app or a typical SaaS-based product? What do you look at differently on these types of companies?
Well, first of all, like a small disclosure, I am a very cautious investor. So unfortunately, I look at companies where there are little technological risks. So the technology needs to be ready and working. If it doesn't, I may like it a hell of a lot, but I won't have the guts to invest. Again, there are reasons for this. I am too cautious. I am not in, the traditional 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 100. I really need for my ecosystem to work flawlessly. Well, as flawless as it gets. So basically, first I check the technological part. If it works, for me, that's already a really good solution. I'm already in certain areas, shall we say, savvy enough to understand if the market needs this or if it doesn't. So for me, if the tech company didn't find yet a product market fit, many times I wouldn't care. I already would know, okay, these guys will love it. Here, maybe it won't go in this particular industry. Here, it will be indispensable. So these basically are the things. And then the next thing is how indispensable is technology per se, right? So, I mean, you can deliver the same sort of solution in a very different way. Like, for example, there was just recently, we had a discussion with a few people in agriculture who were saying, let's use drones not only to fumigate the fields, but also to basically pick fruits from the trees, flying drones. And one of the company specialists said, of the drone company said, well, you know what, even though I love the concept and we of course can do it as a prototype and it will be cool and everybody will watch it. However, I mean, it really would be easy to just do, an autonomous drone on wheels, which would be doing the very same thing from the ground. There are like a bunch of advantages to that, right? So don't try to create complex solutions for problems which are simple, and some of the problems can be solved by very trivial things and don't require an overcomplicated solutions. But again, so in this sense, my approach to investments is a little bit special.
But no, I would say that's actually a good thing. I mean, look, not every investor is the same, right? Not every founder is the same. This is actually really good advice that, for entrepreneurs, you need to realize this, right? We talk about doing your homework. Vadim is giving the perfect reason why, as every investor is different on how they look at and how they make decisions. That's why we host VCTV, is to get into our minds as investors. So Vadim, thank you for being honest and sharing that. And to you investors, I mean, take a lesson here. This is a good thing to walk away with, is if you're high risk, go for it. If you're medium risk, unsure, well, you may be super excited about the tech. You may want to dive a little bit deeper and kind of hold back. And so, Vadim, again, thank you for being so honest. Keith, same to you. What has changed? Have you seen, change in the diligence process or the investment process in the industrial 4.0 era, looking at these companies, whether that's again with the government or yourself as well as you may be looking at new technologies?
Well, I do share what Vadim is saying. Something which is simple, couldn't go wrong in the critical stage. So basically, Vadim said all that already. Yeah. Whereas the government is more willing to take a risk than me. It's probably not their money, it's the country's money. I don't know. But for mine, I tend to be more cautious. And there must be a ready solution to a problem which people are willing to pay. So that is quite important. Rather like if it's circulating in the Facebook about how they have a simple solution to sort out the tomato size, 2 pieces of sticks, and they say, look, this is better than technology. So it reminds a person that, you don't need to think so difficult to solve the problem, because usually it's the easiest solution that you need to adapt.
Absolutely. And Gary, same to you. I mean, what are you seeing change? You're diving deep on AI, but I know you're spending more time in deep tech. So tell us, what are you seeing change in diligence in an investment process?
Well, I mean, the thing is, so I look at the fundamentals. So, I mean, who the team is, what kind of successes have they had? Have they raised money before? I mean, all that, because it's really about the team, right? When it's all said and done, it's that. Second situation is I look at, do they have any revenue at all? Have they garnered any revenue with anything that they've done? And if they do have revenue, that gives me an indication that they have some product market fit. The other thing is, I would also look if they are into some very advanced technologies, have they garnered any grants? Have they gotten any money from any outside sources that would give me an indication that this technology is really cool stuff? Or do they have a partnership with an Intel or a NVIDIA, a company that has some name brand recognition and or has invested in them? And that would give me some indication about the company. The next thing is I would look at for the company, are they open-minded and are they thinking about where the technology is going to be in the future? Because a lot of what we're talking about today is not today, it's the future. So where will it be in 5 years? Where will it be in 10 years? But more importantly, how are they going to make money between now and 5 years from now? Mm-hmm. And that's, I mean, it's, these are fundamental things, but no matter what is a pandemic or there's a recession, as long as we have the basic principles lined up, we're going to be successful.
Absolutely. And gentlemen, thank you so much again for being so open and honest today. And we're coming to the top of the hour here on Wednesday. And I want to make sure everyone gets their closing thoughts in and where everyone can find you as well. And again, I know that there's a few articles that have been mentioned. I'll make sure to share those with everybody. But Keith, I want to come to you. Any closing thoughts that you may have as to where these industries go and where the future of Industry 4.0 is? And then where can everyone find you online as well?
Okay. Where does the industry go? It'll move fast because they're forced to. So that's quite obvious. You can find me if you come to Singapore, but you can't find in Singapore now. So I'll just drop an email. It's just keithkey@gmail, my name and gmail.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Keith. Vadim, to you, what are your closing thoughts, if any, around where this industry goes and anything else we didn't get a chance to cover? And then where can everyone find you online?
I'll be brief in this sense. On my end, I think, again, all of the industries which can be automated will be over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. So by all means, just choose the right industry, make sure you fit well into the ecosystem, that you're a decent part of the puzzle. Make sure that your technology is working steadily and smoothly, and just go for it. I mean, not much I can add. And in terms of where you can find me, precisely to learn a bit more about what type of things I'm looking for and what can fit my current investment thesis. So just take a look at aas.fund, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. But just state like the reason why you're connecting and that it actually makes sense and there is certain synergy. That
Perfect.
much it.
Perfect. And again, I'll drop the links in for everybody as we're going through this. Gary, close us out. Last closing thoughts, and where can everyone find you online?
Yeah, I mean, this is unprecedented time. So take advantage of this opportunity, whether you're in robotics or AI or manufacturing. This is a time we can do things differently. This is a time that's really needed to have some incredible out of the box thinking technologies. Don't be afraid about it. Don't be negatives. Think about the positive side of it and get stuff done. As Keith was saying, time is of the essence because these technologies are evolving so rapidly. What you don't want to do is overthink it and be the person looking from the outside looking in, when you can make the change and you can move it forward. So you can check me out at GSD, Get Shit Done Venture Studios, gsdvs.com, or in LinkedIn, Gary Fowler. I'm happy to help. Make your dent in the universe, get shit done, and stay happy and safe. Thank you.
Wonderful. Absolutely. And again, gentlemen, thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. And as I mentioned to our audience, I will drop in links and some of the things that were mentioned today after the show. So check out the show notes and we'll have those as references. And all of us are available 24/7. We'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, Twitter, any other social media, or on our respective company websites, or through LA Token as well, and be happy to share more and hear more what you're working on. If you like what you heard today, make sure you click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Again, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you as a startup. Love to have you on the show, a chance to meet these investors and also have the chance to share what you're building on. If you're an investor, we'd love to have you on here. Open up your brain, hear what your thoughts are and insights on different industries and technologies and where they're going as well. I'm your host today, Kyle Ellicott. A big thank you to Elena, to Maria, and to the entire LA Token team, again, for bringing VCTV possible to you, your screen, to your ears, to wherever you may be and devices you're listening to anywhere in the world. And we'll be back here tomorrow for another edition following today's topic to dive a little bit deeper onto the next level of this, and that's supply chain and logistics. So get ready. All of what we've talked about today will play a big role in tomorrow's conversation. So tune in, don't miss out. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. See you tomorrow back here on VCTV. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.